The next thing I want to talk about is, in the industry, we call it CPA. And all that means is cost per acquisition. So at the end of the day, regardless of the kind of advertising you're doing, every single business owner anywhere pays to have each new client join that business environment. And I'll give you an example. If I ran a TV spot, 30 seconds, and I paid $70 a spot, and depending on the widget that I'm selling and the service that I'm providing, I'm going to get phone calls and I'm going to close X amount of deals, or the folks are going to decide to do business with me, whatever it may cost. But there's a cost to acquiring that client, which is where we get our cost per acquisition. So when we start thinking about the actual cost to generate each new sale, we begin to understand that if we can find a way to reduce the cost per acquisition and, of course, reach a broader market at the same time, it's something we have to pay attention to. So I'll give you another example. If I put an ad in the local newspaper that maybe has a couple of 100,000 for distribution, and again, I used to advertise in every traditional method that was available, I would tell you on a typical campaign, if I ran maybe a vertical ad and say I was in the sports section and it ran for a week, maybe I would get 30 phone calls. Of course, every market's different, every widget's different, but we're speaking in general terms. And this is really very, very important to drill down on. So if I did that kind of a campaign and I received my 30 calls and the ad cost me $1,000, and out of those 30 calls, 10 people ended up doing business with me, you can then say that each one of those clients cost you $100 each to acquire. Now, if you're the pizza guy, that's an impossible model. That doesn't work, because I'll need to feed that new client probably a dozen times just to get my initial $100 back. So there's a real correlation with the kind of business you have and the widget you're selling or the service that you're offering, what your affordability is in reaching out into the marketplace to reach that client, and ultimately, what is the return on that investment? Of course, the higher we go up the food scale, and we start talking about, as an example, a cosmetic surgeon. Well, a cosmetic surgeon may be able and willing to pay $300 to $500 to acquire each new client. So as we increase our potential budget, we increase the breadth, the scope of how much we can spend in advertising, which is going to obviously increase the scope of the people that we can reach, and so on and so forth. If I had a small pizza shop, what I need to spend to acquire a client probably can't be more than maybe $5 or $7 a client. So that's going to limit my potential advertising, and really, to my own detriment, unless I had a lot of money to do an initial campaign to reach a broad audience, it's going to take me quite a while to build up that pizza store, and I better be doing everything correctly. I better be answering the phone properly. I better be cooking one hell of a pizza, and I better be delivering exactly at the right price, because it's a highly competitive field, exactly what the client's desiring. But getting back to a CPA and the cost per acquisition, when we start taking a look at the virtual world of the internet and how much it potentially will cost to acquire a client, we see that we have a lot more control over not only the kind of clients we're going after, because we can drill down like a laser and just pull those clients that we're looking for, with the understanding that we're going to pull them at the moment that they have an interest, that they have a desire. But I'll tell you that if you compare traditional advertising to electronic marketing, internet marketing, search engine optimization, and you make that relationship, I'll tell you that you're probably going to be 50 to 80% less, and you're going to increase your return on investment by a like number. But you'll see such a dramatic difference in what it's costing you to acquire a client, where you can then scale that up in a very uniformed process, in a very controlled process. I remember once watching a TV show, and everybody should maybe Google this. The fellow was selling cowboy boots, and I forget if he was in Idaho, but had really a small family business, and he started doing internet marketing. And he grew the business to such a degree that he almost had to stop. It was bigger than what he wanted to be. He didn't want to go into a new warehouse facility. But the power and the strength of what he was able to harness, and how we could take the same $5 bill that we would spend, and it's a good way to think about it, how we would take that same $5 bill that we would spend in traditional advertising, but get $20 worth of value out of it. And that's really what all of this is about. Nobody is saying that it's never going to cost you something to acquire a client. The question really is how do we maximize what normally is a limited advertising budget? So instead of reaching a potential of 20 clients, I can reach a potential of 100 or 200 clients. Because if I can maximize my advertising campaign and lower my cost per acquisition, at the end of the day, I'm putting more money where I want that money to go. And that money is either going to go directly to the bottom line or in my pocket, or it's going to go to aiding me to building and continuing to grow my top line revenue so I live and prosper for another day. So those are my thoughts on a cost per acquisition and how it ties in with traditional and internet marketing.